We talked about the invoices for the different body parts of late-term aborted babies. Invoices that show a charge for skin, or for a brain, or for the baby's heart, as if somebody can buy and own somebody else's heart, or lungs, or livers. And those invoices and the whole issue of transactions over body parts, right? Certainly witnesses to the humanity of babies in the womb who are threatened by abortion. But just as much as they had human body parts, human brains, human eyeballs, human hearts, every single child who's been killed by abortion also, had their own personality, their own name, their own identity, and they had a family. They had a mom and they had a dad.
Hello and welcome to the Ann and Phelim Scoop. My name is Ann McElhinney.
And I'm Phelim McAleer. And we just want to say hello to all the new viewers and listeners out there. We've got a lot of new faces and a lot of new people listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Many of you might have found us through the Grooming Gang's cover-up podcast and YouTube video we just did. It's been incredibly successful.
So we want to take a moment to kind of introduce ourselves to, particularly because there's so many new people here.
Yes. So this is Ann McElhinney.
This is Ann McElhinney and this is Phelim McAleer. And we're married, by the way,
Yes.
so that can become kind of an issue at times.
Yes. Oops.
Okay.
And
Put
we
that on.
we have phones that won't go on silent, even though I thought I had. So there's my phone on silent. And yes, so we're journalists. We're Irish. We live in Los Angeles. We have 2 cats.
Scaredy cat and top cat.
Yes. And they live up to their names. And we basically, it's the Unreported Story Society. That's our not-for-profit, which you can support by going to unreportedstorysociety.com. But we bring you unreported stories. We made the Hunter Biden movie, My Son Hunter, starring Lawrence Fox, Gina Carano, directed by Robert Davi. We made the Gosnell movie about the abortion doctor in Philadelphia. We've done FBI Lovebirds Undercovers about the corruption at the FBI.
We did Ferguson, which told the true story of what transpired in the grand jury testimony,
Yes.
and brought it on stage in Los Angeles and New York with much difficulty, by the way,
Yes.
but very much worthwhile doing.
The truth hurts so much that 9 of the actors walked out during the LA performance. So we specialize in verbatim. If you came to us through the Grooming Gang cover-up, which was a verbatim reenactment of the judge's judgment and sentencing remarks in that case, then you'll want to check out our other
podcasts that deal with verbatim and with extraordinary court cases, including the Kevin Spacey court cases.
Yes.
And you can find that at Kevin Spacey Trial Unfiltered. But we also did
Harvey Weinstein.
But
listen, we'll put all those links. If you go to YouTube, where you've been leaving comments, and we read every one of them, even the nasty ones. If you go there and we'll put the links there in the show notes. So welcome to the show, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to see you.
So, Phelim, what's on the show today?
Well, I've said it. I've often said it. No one listens. Who listens to me?
I do, Phelim.
Good. That's your job.
I know. I suppose that's it.
Yes.
I think that goes with the whole marriage thing.
Yes. Richer per
listen to all the stories.
All the rambling.
Yes.
Yes. So why Donald Trump is the most influential and powerful president, actually the most influential president in 40 years. People focus on the mean tweets, but actually he's rewriting policy. He's making people think again. He's not making America great again. He's making America think again.
Oh, yes.
And
he's
rewriting policy and how politics is done. And we're going to have more on that. We also have an exclusive interview
with our very dear friend David Daleiden. I mean, we interview people most weeks. We have an interview with somebody, and I don't like to say I've got favourites, but David Daleiden is one of our favourite guests.
Yes, you might remember him. He's the journalist who
exposed the Planned Parenthood selling of baby parts. He's an extraordinary person, an amazing human being, and we're delighted to have him with him.
And we're going to talk about his settlement with the Californian district attorney after years of prosecution and persecution. And so Elon Musk.
I don't know. When does that man sleep? Anyway,
Elon Musk versus the blob versus the deep state. Let's see who wins. We've got lots on that. And 3 facts that the mainstream media won't tell you about the tragic DC crash, the plane crash and the Black Hawk, that you really need to know. And I have a little bit of an exclusive detail
Oh, very
people
good.
might like to know.
And finally, forget Doge, forget Trump, forget everything you think is important. We bring you the most important story of the week and of the century, perhaps. And that is the ongoing saga of Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively tryst.
Lawsuit.
Lawsuit.
It's not a twist.
How dare you? No.
Yes.
Lawsuits. Storm in a teacup.
Yes.
But and why should Conservatives care about that?
Yes.
We'll bring you that story.
Anne is going to break it all down.
Yeah, after having David Daleiden, by the way, you talk about sublime to the ridiculous.
Yes,
Well, yeah, we
yes.
cover everything here.
Yes, but actually it's a very interesting story and it brings up some issues.
Yes.
It's also great gossip too.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
And
And you need to have an opinion on it.
yes, and hubris is an
That's
amazing
right.
thing.
That's right.
So, President Trump.
The most influential president in 40 years.
That's
Phil.
what I'm saying.
I know that's what you're saying. And I'm asking you the question.
Because he makes people think again. Commentators and pundits and all, they focus on his tweets and what he says, which is important. But I maintain he was elected and re-elected because of his policies, not his personality.
Absolutely.
For years, American politicians and presidents have said it's terrible the way NATO has not been paying their fair share, and they've also been saying, "Oh, China was our friend, or maybe they're opponent, but we trade with them, and there's nothing we can do." And even though it wasn't free trade, and we should allow China to control the world's infrastructure, and it's just nothing we can do. What can we do? And he said, NATO, they need to, every NATO country is only paying 2% of its GDP in defense spending when it should be 5%. Like America. America spends more. Like America puts in 15% of NATO. There's 32 countries in NATO, and America funds 15% of it. So
how is that? I mean, obviously these questions need to be asked. How is that ever allowed to happen? It's inherently unfair.
And also, none of the countries that NATO is defending against are any danger to America. Russia's not invading America next unless they come through Alaska and then Canada. You can see, as Sarah Palin didn't say, you can see Russian tanks from Chancellor whatever Angela Merkel or whoever it is bedroom. This is real. So anyway, cue outrage and laughter. There's nothing you can do. Then Trump also said the Panama Canal, he made it an issue when, we gave it away for nothing. America gave it away for nothing.
I think a lot of people probably didn't know that. I would say I'd say an enormous number of people in America didn't actually know that the Panama Canal, at vast expense and taxpayer dollars, American dollars, was then handed over.
Yeah. And not only handed over, allowing China to basically take control of it. So anyway, cue outrage and laughter. There's nothing you can do. And he criticised California not releasing the water. These are all things that Trump did to absolute laughter from the people who know.
And by the way, this is in, what have we got now, like maybe just over 2 weeks?
Yes. So he criticised California for not releasing water to farmers and to firefighters, to LA. Prioritising, of course, the Delta smelt, God bless us. Firefighters ran out of water. Farmers are going bankrupt. But hey, if you read the media, it's complicated. Trump just doesn't understand. There was plenty of water, and even if there was, it's not as simple as turning on a spigot. Anyway, cue a few weeks later. There's a tweet about President Macron. France.
No, Philip, don't even try.
French
don't
accent?
even try with the French. No, don't try with the French accent.
You sure?
France will double its defense budget through 2 military programming laws, launching major projects. We need more European funding, both public and private, with a specified financing approach. Europe must act together in 7 key sectors.
I think it started off as French.
Sort of
delegated into German.
Sort of middle European.
Middle European, definitely.
European.
I don't think France could technically be called Middle European. Anyway, so let me translate for you. Not that Anne's obviously was hugely. Basically, yes, we agree, and we're going to pay more for our defence.
Just like that. Yeah. Just like that.
And I wonder if anything happened with the Panama Canal.
And what's the latest with the Panama Canal?
Marco Rubio, little Marco.
Oh, little Marco. God,
little Marco.
I tell you, it's not hilarious too. A week is a long time in politics. A year is a long time in politics. An electoral cycle is a long time in politics. But I'll tell you, Marco Rubio has a short memory.
Yes.
Little Marco.
Well, and a short body too.
And a short little body. Well, off he went. Off he went on a plane way down there to Panama. Good for him.
The Panama president, Jose Raúl Molino, stated that the country will not renew a trade and development agreement with China.
Just like that.
July.
Just like that.
So China's control of the Panama Canal is gone. And, California Water, obviously Governor Newsom is going to stand up to Trump, because that's what when LA was burning, they had a special legislative session to raise, was it 25 or 50 million to tackle Trump, not to tackle the fires, but to tackle Trump. And
then just the other day, like literally just like that, Governor Newsom has issued a statement. He put it out on Twitter, on X. Mm-hmm. I just issued an executive order, said Governor Newsom, to capture and store more water from the upcoming storms in California. We're creating a literal rainy day fund for our hotter, drier future.
What a clever play on words. Really.
How clever of him, though, to have thought of this incredible idea. Releasing more water and actually capturing water during a storm. Previous to this, they just let the water run out to the sea.
No, even worse. He was involved in the biggest, remember that, we put that headline up actually, the biggest dam busting project. He was better than the guys in the Second World War with the bouncing bombs. The dam busters had nothing on this guy. He was proud that he was part of the biggest dam dismantling project on the planet
Earth. Happened in California.
And so let's not even talk about how Colombia folded like a cheap suit. So basically, Trump says the unthinkable. Everyone laughs. They're not laughing now. And anyway, so...
But what next? What next, Phelim? What next? Seriously? Are we going to have the stars and stripes over Greenland?
You see, they laughed at him. But do you know how they're going to pressurise Denmark?
No, I do not know that. How are they going to pressurise Denmark? Go on.
There's talk that he may ban the sale of what in America?
Ozempic. Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, I only joked about that.
Oh, no.
So the whole economy of Denmark, by the way, is now based on Ozempic.
That it's
No. He's not going to do that. Oh my God, he is so funny. What a funny man. I think something like 20. I'm nearly sure I read that the Ozempic sales. That obviously, so Denmark is. What's the name of the company? Whoever make Ozempic.
Novo Nordisk.
Novo Nordisk.
Well,
basically, I think it's 25% of GDP in Denmark is now is basically now produced by the profits that they're getting from Ozempic.
I should have done this beforehand, but
he's doing it quickly now.
How important
in
is
real
Ozempic?
time? How important is Ozempic to the Denmark economy? Go on ahead, Phelim. There, give us a quick answer there.
Well, according to NPR, right?
Oh, God, we can really depend on them.
Denmark is now a pharma state.
A pharma state, that's funny.
Like a petro state.
Except for with PH.
Yes.
Not F.
It's a pharma state. So basically...
their economy is based on Ozempic.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you... I would venture that given the, let's just say the...
sensitivity.
The size of...
the size,
of
Phelim.
Americans... that America...
Look at you fat shaming, Phelim, which we're going to come back to, by the way.
Yes, I'm not actually fat shaming. I'm actually stating a fact.
I think you're fat shaming the whole of America now.
No, the Americans are big. But look, all my American cousins are 4 inches taller than us.
There you go.
So
I don't think he's talking about height now.
No, I'm not talking about height. I'm talking about other sizes.
I think Ozempic isn't to do with height.
I think America would be the biggest buyer of Ozempic. Consumer of Ozempic on the planet by multiples. I mean, I don't think there's enough a market in Europe really to make much of a difference, and outside of that. So refusing to let Ozempic be sold in America would be catastrophic for the pharma state of Denmark. So maybe we will see the stars and stripes over Greenland.
Anyway, we're going to go over now to an interview we did earlier with David Daleiden, our dear friend David Daleiden, who is just, I think, the single greatest hero of the contemporary pro-life movement. Let's go over to that now.
David Daleiden has been at the forefront of the pro-life movement for at least 2 decades now. He's the founder of the Centre for Medical Progress. It's a not-for-profit that really is a group of citizen journalists who investigate bioethics and really the buying and selling and the abuse of fetal parts. Hard to believe we need a not-for-profit for that
Correct.
in
Yes.
America these
Yeah,
days,
right.
but we do. Yes, we do. Most of you know David from his undercover work in releasing the Planned Parenthood videos, which basically showed people haggling over the sale of body parts to get a good price for them, body parts of babies. For his journalism, for his heroic journalism of going into the belly of the beast, David has basically faced unbelievable legal challenges and has arguably been one of the most persecuted and prosecuted individuals, including undergoing prosecution by the former Californian Attorney General, a certain
Kamala Harris.
whatever happened to that lady? She
No,
seems
not sure.
to have disappeared.
Very much so.
So anyway, welcome, David. Maybe David can tell us what happened. Kamala Harris. David, welcome to the show.
Great to be back with you.
Thank you so much,
you.
David. Well, first of all, I think it might be useful because we've got a lot of new listeners recently. It might be very useful for people to learn more about exactly what kind of work you do and what you've done and how you've done it, because it really is very cutting edge journalism. Can you describe what you did in these videos?
Sure. Thank you for that very kind setup. So for any of your viewers who maybe don't remember or weren't kind of dialed in at the beginning, so if you think back 10 years ago to 2015, it was a big year where lots of new initiatives got started, and some things are still kind of playing out today from that time period, even in a lot of different arenas. But in the summer of 2015, my organization, the Center for Medical Progress, was responsible for the release of the Undercover video series that caught top-level Planned Parenthood abortion doctors callously negotiating the harvesting and sale of tiny baby body parts from late-term abortions and openly admitting how they were using criminal partial birth abortions in order to get whole babies out to harvest the body parts for sale to government-funded laboratories. As you can imagine, Planned Parenthood was not happy when these videotapes hit the internet in the summer of 2015. They knew that it was incredibly damning to their reputation and to their credibility. Those are not my words, by the way. Those are the words of the George Soros Open Societies Foundation in 2016. Where they said that the videos were very damaging to Planned Parenthood's credibility and reputation. So Planned Parenthood responded viciously after the videos came out, and they went running to their powerful political allies, in particularly in the federal courts and in state government. In the case in California, they went to their handpicked Attorney General of California at the time was Kamala Harris. And so after these undercover videos came out, Kamala Harris had a choice. She could either investigate the taxpayer-funded abortion mega clinics across her state that had been captured selling aborted baby body parts from illegal partial birth abortions, or she could do Planned Parenthood's bidding and go after the whistleblowers. And Kamala Harris chose to do the latter as Attorney General of California. At Planned Parenthood's explicit request, she brought a totally unprecedented, politically motivated prosecution against myself and my undercover team under the California video recording law, which never in the 70-year history of that law, local TV news journalists like at CBS and ABC and local Fox affiliates, animal rights activists, many other advocacy groups in California, and other local news journalists do undercover video stories all the time in California. And not a single one of them has ever been criminally charged under the California video recording law, either before my case or after. My case is the first and only one, and it was launched by Kamala Harris on the explicit instructions of Planned Parenthood to try to use that lawfare to cover up what was being documented on the undercover videos.
And by the way, you should have won a Pulitzer Prize, by the way, for the journalism you did.
I just want to go back actually to the journalism that you did. Let's put up this is a receipt or an invoice actually for $350 for the skin of a Down syndrome child. Right?
Yeah.
This isn't, this is not, it's hard to believe that you can buy the skin of an aborted Down syndrome child for $350 in
It's a
America.
trade.
It's a trade.
It's a business.
And here there were other receipts, invoices. And what really struck me was the bit at the bottom of the invoice.
Pay up now.
The trade conditions. If you don't pay within, every invoice you get, if you don't pay within 30 days,
I want the skin back.
Well, no. That you'll be charged interest on your failure to pay and all that. The typical invoice. It's like they're selling widgets, which I suppose in their mind they were. So a huge scandal, as you say. Kamala Harris then prosecuted and persecuted.
Well, also prosecuted and persecuted you and pursued you like you were a murderer. By the way, I still have a clear memory of you describing to us, David, before about just the way that she sent her henchmen. Basically, she sent all these police officers to your apartment, like you were, about to murder somebody or whatever, like way
an
over
armed
the top.
Raid,
an armed raid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Kamala Harris brought the full power of the state down on myself and my team members. This included a raid on my small 1-bedroom apartment in 2016. 11 armed California DOJ agents, complete with K9 units and everything. Only half of them fit in the apartment. I mean, there's video that we've released since then, where you can see these big agents stomping around the apartment, overturning boxes, things like that, because they had explicit instructions from Planned Parenthood to seize the videos, because they didn't want any of the remaining undercover footage to be released, because it is that damning and that incriminating for Planned Parenthood's $700 million in taxpayer funding, now $2 billion a year abortion business. And Kamala Harris and her successors in the San Francisco elite in California, strong allies of Planned Parenthood, they pursued this completely unprecedented, politically motivated case for 9 years. Why? Because the facts that are documented on the undercover tapes and the truth that it points to about the way that Planned Parenthood and big abortion operates in this country was too damaging for their reputations, their credibility, and the future of their agenda in the United States. And because ultimately what the undercover videos highlight, and what further public records documents and FOIA investigations that CMP has been expanding into since then corroborate, is that the dark reality behind all of this is that there are healthy, preemie age babies that Planned Parenthood in their taxpayer-funded abortion clinics uses partial birth abortions to deliver whole and alive for organ harvesting and sales to government-funded laboratories across the country.
Unbelievable.
All right. This is what they're involved in. It's Kermit Gosnell level activity that is supported by taxpayers and done on an even bigger scale than just a big clinic in Philadelphia. And these are the facts that Planned Parenthood and the leadership of the abortion industry is terrified about being openly discussed, because of the logical ramifications that it will have for shutting down the abortion industry in our country.
So, David, people may not believe what you're saying. I know everyone believes.
Because it's so shocking.
It's so shocking. Let's just play a little clip. I mean, there's so many clips, but let's play. I think Deborah Nucatola is her name. Nucatola. Who is she, David?
Dr. Nucatola, at the time that we did our undercover videos, was the senior director of medical services at Planned Parenthood nationwide. So that means literally the top abortion doctor for the entire nationwide organization, responsible for training the other doctors, responsible for overseeing abortion practice across the entire network, responsible for basically writing the how-to instructions manual of how to run your Planned Parenthood abortion clinic. And someone who was heavily involved in doing the so-called research abortions at Planned Parenthood in Los Angeles and Southern California.
Let's hear what she says when she thinks no one's watching and when she's interested in money.
Every provider has had patients who want to donate their tissue, and they absolutely want to become it. They just want to do it in a way that is not perceived as this clinic is selling tissue, this clinic is making money off of this.
Okay, so when you are, or the affiliate is determining what that is monetary.
Yes.
So that it doesn't raise any question of this is this is what it's about. This is the main. What price range would you?
I'm going to throw a number out. I would say it's probably anywhere from $30 to $100, depending on the facility and what's involved.
The $30 to $100 price, or that's per specimen that we're talking about, right? Yeah.
Yes.
The $30 to $100 price, or that's per specimen that we're talking about, right? Yeah.
Yes.
How much of a difference can that actually make if you know what's expected or what we need versus?
It makes a huge difference. I'd say a lot of people want liver,
Mm-hmm.
and for that reason, most providers will do this case under ultrasound guidance, so they'll know where they're putting their forceps. Then a rate-limiting step of the procedure is calvarium. Calvarium, the head is basically the biggest part. Most of the other stuff can come out intact.
Right.
It's very rare to have a patient that doesn't have enough dilation to evacuate all the
To bring the body cavity out intact and all that.
So then you're just kind of cognizant of where you put your graspers. You try to intentionally go above and below the thorax so that, we've been very good at getting parts on liver because we know that. So I'm not going to crush that part. I'm going to basically crush below, I'm going to crush above, and I'm going to see that get out intact. And with the calvarium, in general, some people will actually try to change the presentation so that's not vertex. Because when it's a vertex presentation, you never have enough dilation at the beginning of the case unless you have a real huge amount of dilation to deliver an intact calvarium.
Right.
So if you do it starting from the breech presentation, there's dilation that happens as the case goes on, and often at the last you can evacuate an intact calvarium. So there are certainly steps that can be taken.
So they can convert to breech, for example, at the start of the.
Exactly. They can under ultrasound guidance, they can just change the presentation.
It's an amazing video. It's unbelievable. But it's
it's only one of
and it's only one of many. And
dozens.
by the way, let's just at this point, let's actually ask David, for people who are watching and would like to know more, where can they find all the videos, by the way?
Sure. You can watch everything that we've released at www.centerformedicalprogress.org. And you can also find out more about the latest reporting that we've been doing from our FOIA investigations and how that corroborates the stories that were captured in the original undercover footage.
And so, David, bring us up to speed on, because there's been a massive development recently in your case in California. What's happened? What's changed? And where do you stand now?
Yeah, so really big, really good news. As of just a week ago, Monday of last week, after 9 years of pursuing these politically motivated charges that Kamala Harris launched at the explicit request of Planned Parenthood, on Monday last week, the state of California finally came to an agreement that will totally dismiss the case that she launched over the next 6 to 12 months, and ultimately it will be expunged and completely dismissed. And as if it had never happened in the future. And this agreement involves no admissions of wrongdoing, no jail time, no fines, absolutely nothing from me and my colleague Sandra Merritt. So the state of California and the Attorney General's Office of California are truly walking away with nothing after 9 years. And it's really, that really makes a really big statement that after 9 years of pursuing this case, because Kamala Harris was doing it on behalf of her campaign donors at Planned Parenthood, they fought this for 9 years. After almost a decade, they're walking away with nothing. Why was it worth it to them to do this for almost 10 years and ultimately get nothing?
Well, because
that's how desperately Planned Parenthood wanted to try to cover up.
It was to quash. You're
Yeah.
right. It was to quash the footage. But you're admitting to something. Is that right, or you're no contest to one misdemeanor?
No, yeah. So the agreement was for entering a nolo contendere plea on a single video recording charge. It doesn't involve any admissions of wrongdoing. It can't be used against me or Sandra in any other proceedings. Nolo contendere in Latin literally means I do not want to contest it. So it's basically a way to come to an agreement with the government when you would like to move on to the next phase. And so it doesn't involve any admissions of wrongdoing, doesn't involve any admissions of guilt. And the single charge that we entered, the no contest plea on will be entered into judgment in 6 months to a year as a misdemeanor, at which point automatically, according to operation of California law, that no contest plea will be converted into a not guilty plea, and then the entire thing will be dismissed and expunged. So it's really a phased dismissal of the entire case, and the state of California is walking away with nothing, getting nothing out of it other than saving the taxpayers a little bit of money that they would have had to spend if they kept it going otherwise. So it's really a huge victory for my undercover reporting and for the public's right to know the truth about what Planned Parenthood is doing with taxpayer dollars to women and children.
I have a question, and this was classic undercover reporting, right? This was classic undercover reporting, finding the rich and powerful up to terrible things when they think no one's watching. A classic example of how wonderful undercover reporting is and can be. Did any of the mainstream media support you when you were prosecuted for this? Did anyone come out and say this endangers everyone?
Almost nobody. I mean, it was really incredible how once Planned Parenthood activated their powerful allies in the court system, and in both federal and state governments, it was like the establishment press, which had covered the videos to some degree for the first couple of months, and then all of a sudden it was like they lowered a cone of silence over the entire thing. And it was like a coordinated effort to try to erase what had come out on the undercover footage, to just erase it from history and erase it from memory. It's really interesting. I mean, even now, the Attorney General of California has not been going on television or news shows this past week to talk about the end of the case or to brag about anything. They and the Planned Parenthood world, basically abortion world, doesn't want to talk about me, doesn't want to talk about this case, and certainly doesn't want to talk about the videos, and doesn't want to talk about the facts, like their contracts, for example, with taxpayer-funded universities to sell, quote, proprietary aborted babies to the university systems in exchange for ownership of the intellectual property royalties that the University of Labs create from experimenting on the body parts. I mean, the Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry's involvement in treating their patients like harvesting pods, ripping fully formed, recognizably human, preemie age babies out of their mother's wombs alive so that they can sell them as so-called proprietary products to capture royalties from university and big pharma experiments. This is a big story. It's a very deep and dark story about the exploitation of an unequal class of a class of human beings that has been historically treated unequally. And the rabbit trail just goes deeper and darker. I mean, in our most recent reporting on this from right before the holiday season, we were reporting on the actual consent form documents, so-called consent forms that Planned Parenthood uses with their patients for their harvesting program in Southern California that is still ongoing. They have two different versions of the consent form. They have the English language version that's used for English-speaking pregnant women, where they do notify them that there will be commercialization of their baby's body parts if they agree to participate in this study at Planned Parenthood with the University of California. But in the Spanish language consent forms that are being used for people who only speak Spanish, immigrants, undocumented people coming over the border, and this is in San Diego in Southern California, these Spanish language consent forms remove the disclosure about the commercialization of the baby body parts entirely. So if you're a white English-speaking woman at Planned Parenthood in Southern California, they believe you deserve to know that they will commercialize your baby's body parts. But if you're a socially disadvantaged or an undocumented or a non-English speaking woman walking into a Planned Parenthood in Southern California,
you're not getting that information.
You don't deserve to know that there will be commercial.
By the way, sorry, I actually thought it was illegal, by the way, to sell baby body parts. I thought it was illegal to sell human organs, by the way. I thought that was illegal. So actually, they're admitting to something illegal in the documentation by talking about commercialization, right?
Yeah, they seem to feel like they're untouchable, because they've been getting away with it.
Because they have been untouchable.
8 years.
Well, that kind of That kind of segues perfectly into another question we have, which is, as you say, they've been getting away with it forever. Do you think with the new administration that there might be some change afoot?
I certainly hope so. I mean, it's not lost on me. I mean, it was sort of lost in the news shuffle actually in the past week. But the same day that we were securing the end of the San Francisco case on Monday last week, that same day, the Health and Human Services Department issued a press release where they stated that they are now doing an agency-wide review to make sure that they are in compliance with President Trump's new executive orders, that no federal dollars whatsoever should go to any programs or any organizations or any spending whatsoever that funds or promotes elective abortion. It's a very strong rule. It goes beyond any of the initiatives that have been implemented previously. And as your viewers should know, Planned Parenthood is the single biggest promoter of elective abortion, contrary to all the federal rules and all the federal guidelines in the entire country. So I certainly think that at least the mechanisms, if not the actual defunding of Planned Parenthood, has begun. It's really important. We need to see it through to the end. But they deserve a lot more to happen to them
Yeah.
from the feds than
It's
just being defunded.
yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, and as you say, there's rabbit holes upon rabbit holes. I mean, the thing that struck me was that it was not a supply and demand, it was demand and supply actually model. So the labs and the universities would send a fax or an email saying, we wouldn't mind, we need some arms and we need a leg and we need a Caucasian leg and a 14-week-old heart and a 28-week-old heart and a 27-week liver. So
Or brain, or a
Yeah.
full thalamus, as you talked about
Yes.
before, David.
and that meant that the doctors then, let's say that a woman was in for an abortion and she was having second thoughts. There was a profit motivation for those doctors to convince that woman to go ahead with the abortion.
Because they were looking for a 28-year
without
old.
disclosing to them that they were going to profit from this, that they had this ongoing business relationship that was really keeping the lights on.
Yeah.
It was big money.
Yeah.
Because you could make thousands and thousands of dollars.
So Trump is doing quite good actually from the pro-life point of view, because I think there was obviously some concern that he was rowing back a little bit on how strong he had been the last time. But obviously the Hyde Amendment has been reinvigorated, which had been repealed, I think, by Biden, and also the Mexico agreement, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been quite a few early wins that the administration has been landing when it comes to abortion policy right now. I think the top line message is that everybody wants the federal government to divest from supporting the abortion industry. Historically, federal taxpayer dollars have been propping up the abortion industry for decades. Totally contrary to the spirit and ethos of federal rules like the Hyde Amendment, like the original authorizations for Medicaid, like the Title X rules. Taxpayer dollars are not supposed to be used to support programs where, as they say, abortion is considered a method of family planning in these pro-abortion
It's not fair.
NGOs like Planned Parenthood. So it's a really good sign that that language and those values are being taken seriously again in Washington, D.C. I think that there have been some great commitments that have been made publicly, and I think that they're doing exactly what I would want them to do in terms of how to make sure that the federal government is totally divested from the abortion industry.
Talking of Washington, RFK may be the boss of the Health and Human Services, which is over abortion. He's previously said he supports abortion. I think he's wobbling now. Any concerns there, or what's the story there, do you think?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity to meet with RFK yet, and some of the questions that I would have asked him were definitely asked and answered, really, really appropriately and really well in his confirmation hearings that I got to see a little bit of. Most of those questions were asked. I might have a few more. in particular, more because there are some very specific areas of responsibility that the Health and Human Services Department and Secretary has when it comes to protecting infant lives in our country, and when it comes to ensuring that taxpayer dollars are not being spent to kill babies. But I was really encouraged by the things that Bobby Kennedy said during his 2 days of confirmation hearings. I think that he understands the nature of the problem. I think that I've said this in other places. I am less concerned whether someone agrees with me precisely on what the particular local state criminal law on abortion should look like than I am concerned about, in the position of authority that they actually have, in this case, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, is he going to be responsible to the obligations and the responsibilities that that position has for the specific things that are under its jurisdiction when it comes to protecting as many lives as quickly as possible from the ravages of the predatory taxpayer-funded abortion industry. And Bobby Kennedy has been saying all the right things about that. I think he understands how every abortion is a tragedy, and that's exactly the kind of values that I want in an HHS secretary. I think it's a very good. I think it's a really good development that even before we have a confirmed Trump-appointed HHS secretary, the interim HHS secretary is already sending out press releases saying that they're doing an agency-wide review to make sure that they're in compliance with the president's orders and no longer funding organizations that promote elective abortion. So all he has to do is implement what's already there. I feel like it's sort of under budget and ahead of schedule already, and that seems really good.
Okay. Well, listen, we could talk all day.
We could.
But David, thank you very much for coming on the show. We'd like to bring you back, actually, maybe in a short while, and talk about where the pro-life movement goes from here. What's the strategy moving forward? Because that's a whole other topic.
A whole other topic, exactly.
That many in the pro-life movement are struggling with at the moment. What's the best way forward?
Well, it's because we've just been through such a big change, right? I mean, we're not even 3 years from Roe v. Wade being terminated with the Dobbs decision, and it just, maybe I'm kind of getting ahead of the next episode we're going to do, but I do think it's important for people to consider that things are everything that we're used to when it comes to pro-life advocacy. For the past 50 years, it was all constructed within the box that was set by Roe v. Wade, and that's now over. So trying to figure out, what's the most important, what's the most strategic, what's the most effective when the box is now gone. That's a big conversation to have, and that's it's going to take. I think even the most intelligent and most sophisticated people, it would take a little while.
Yeah, no, definitely, and
figure out what to do with that. So we're very unburdened by what has been,
and that is a problem. That is a problem, despite what Kamala says. Sometimes being burdened by what has been is more comfortable. Is more, we're, as you say, we're in a completely new.
I think there was a sense in which people in the pro-life movement they fought for so long that they thought it would never end, and then it suddenly ended. And I think they didn't really have the playbook ready to take up the challenge at that point. So,
for example. Listen,
we're not getting into it. We're not getting into it.
No, but there are people out there.
I have time if you guys have time.
No, we don't have the time, and that's too big of a topic. I'd like to talk about it, because what do you do? Do you if there's a referendum in a state that says stop at 8 weeks, 10 weeks, do you support that because that or are you an absolutist? What's the best way forward? And I have my thoughts, but that might not be the best way to end abortion. Listen, we will bring you back very shortly, David, for a good chat on this.
I want to end this section, by the way, David. I'm going to spring this on you a little bit, but with reading something. And when we talked earlier, something came up about the Hyde report and about the Hyde Amendment. And it always reminds me, because I was, when I first met you, I was very, very new to the pro-life movement. And I found the whole thing so shocking because had been neutral on abortion, and neutral on abortion means that you're pro-abortion. You just don't know it. And I remember going to an event, and I think you were at it, and on the leaflet, at the back of the leaflet, and it was one of the big pro-life dinners, they had this quote from Congressman Henry Hyde, which I know you know very well, but every time I think of this, I think of you. Because I remember asking you one time, how did you manage to stand there? Because David had stood there in many places, particularly in one particular occasion when David was in that awful abortion mill in Houston, and you were standing there while somebody talked about pulling off legs and just a horrific video. And I said to you, how do you do it? And you said, I want to be there to witness for the children because they've no one else to witness for them. And it made me think of Henry Hyde. And I want to end with this quote from Congressman Henry Hyde. When the time comes, as it surely will, when we face that awesome moment, the final judgment, I've often thought that it is a terrible moment of loneliness. You have no advocates. You are there alone standing before God, and a terror will rip your soul like nothing you can imagine. But I really think that those in the pro-life movement will not be alone. I think there'll be a chorus of voices that have never been heard in this world, but are heard beautifully and clearly in the next world. And they will plead for everyone who has been in this movement, and they will say to God, spare him because he loved us. And I always think of you when I think of that particular quote, David. So thank you very much for everything that you've done.
Thank you. You know, we talked about the invoices for the different body parts of late-term aborted babies. You know, invoices that show a charge for skin, or for a brain, or for the baby's heart, as if somebody can buy and own somebody else's heart, or lungs, or livers. And those invoices and the whole issue of transactions over body parts, right, certainly witnesses to the humanity of babies in the womb who are threatened by abortion. But just as much as they had human body parts, human brains, human eyeballs, human hearts, every single child who's been killed by abortion also, had their own personality, their own name, their own identity, and they had a family. They had a mom and they had a dad. And so yes, every single one of them matters. Every single one of us matters. And I think that's why the pro-life message is needed now more than ever, because that's a universal and perennial message that any great civilization always needs to believe in. So thank you for reminding us of that.
Yeah, no, I think, I think maybe one interesting thing going forward is going to be Elon Musk. And I've said this to a number of people. I was at a pro-life meeting recently, and people were saying, what do you think we should do next? And I said, well, Elon Musk is saying some very interesting things that are very, very, very close to what we say. He said that the greatest threat to civilization is not enough babies are happening. And I think he just needs to be reminded of where a lot of babies are going. A lot of the babies that we're missing out on are being murdered and destroyed. We should end this, but we will end this.
But you talked about they all had their own personalities, and that reminds me of Baby Boy A in the Gosling case. Who lived for minutes. And there was a photograph taken of him, and he, many of us live for 80 years and never, we live our life and we raise our families, and that's good thing. Those are good things to do and important things to do. Baby Boy A lived a few minutes. He put a mass murderer away for life.
And he changed people. I mean, we know people who got in touch with us who said that they became pro-life because of Baby Boy A. One girl, I told you this before, maybe, David. She put a tattoo. She has put a tattoo on her wrist. We can put it up on the screen there, a photograph of that. And she said she wanted to always pray and remember Baby Boy A every time she said her prayers.
And
that's only one of the stories. Anyway, we will go. Yeah. But David, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
So, I would say, one of the most outstanding achievements of Donald Trump
so far in the last 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, or in general, is how he's kind of rewritten the rules again, and he's forced bad people into the corner and to defend bad ideas, and having to do it in public. Previously there was a kind of people didn't call out the bad ideas, or they were afraid to call out the bad ideas. And it's like when the media and Democrats, but I repeat myself, are defending gender-affirming surgery, right?
Yes.
And that is life-changing, destructive mutilations.
Yeah.
But previously they weren't forced to defend that. They were just said, the media just went gender-affirming, and and how dare you? You're a bigot, and they're going to commit suicide if you don't give them this. So then we have Doge and Elon Musk, and people are now being forced to, like, for example, Elizabeth Warren got very excited, I think, over the weekend. She wrote a letter to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, demanding why, because Trump or Musk went in and said, see, I want to see how...
I want to see where the money is going. I want to see how this money is being spent, and I want to see the funnel basically,
yes.
and where's
and
the
who presses the button?
where's the controls?
But also,
show me the controls.
What are the checks and balances? And the person in charge of the checks and balances says, we couldn't possibly.
Yeah, you're not allowed in here.
Yeah, you can't possibly see how we spend money. That would be a gross breach of whatever. So he said, okay, well, you're fired. No, actually, they suspended him and he resigned the next day.
Nice.
And they got the keys. But this was appalling for Senator Elizabeth Warren, who's supposed to be the representative of the little guy in the Senate, the consumer.
Yes.
So she sent a letter to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent demanding to know why Elon Musk was granted access and his people, including sensitive systems and data from millions of Americans.
And by the way, can I just say, where have you all been all these years, Republicans?
Mm-hmm.
Well, shouldn't this have been literally the very first thing you would have done on day one and gone and found out where's the money? Where's the money coming out of? And let's monitor every last dollar for the American people.
Well, Elon Musk says the guy with the button never stopped the button, no matter if it was fraud or terrorism. It was just it went. So anyway, they got access to it, and this is from the New York Times, right? Elizabeth Warren. How an unelected billionaire and an unknown number of his unqualified flunkies were allowed access. And then this is the New York Times. The Musk allies who've been granted access to the payment system were made Treasury employees, passed government background checks, and obtained the necessary security clearance, according to two people familiar with the situation. When their access was approved, the Musk's representatives have yet to gain operational abilities, and no government payments have been blocked. Mr. Musk said on Sunday, he said he accused Treasury officials of breaking the law every hour by approving payments that are fraudulent or do not match funding laws passed by Congress.
Unbelievable.
Is that not something that your one
Elizabeth Warren would be like, well, I'm all over that. Yeah.
And again,
but she has to defend herself. She has to defend not allowing, so he's saying things like, by the way, I've seen literally fraudulent payments going on. And she, instead of saying, oh my God, show me those receipts, she's saying, we need to get you out of this office.
Yes. Because, by the way, a lot of the fraud is going to leftist NGOs who then contribute to...
Yes. It all gets cycled in.
It all gets cycled in, contribute to the leftist politicians. And then CBS, Margaret Brennan, what a lovely gift this woman is. So USAID, which we have some experience of, Anne McElhinney.
You know something of them.
Because we used to live in Romania and we had a lot of experience with the State Department, the American State Department, and USAID. And funny, we had relatively positive experience of the USAID in one particular instance.
In one particular instance, yes, we did.
But in general, they're a law unto themselves. Mm-hmm. They have policies, leftist policies.
They have incredible power, by the way, and particularly an incredible amount of power in all these countries where they're interfering in
they can set policy because they have the power of America behind them. Yeah. And Margaret Brennan said, she was interviewing Florida Republican Brian Mast, and he gave. Do you remember the interview? Was it before the election? Yeah, I think it was J.D. Vance, and where the reporter said, there's only a few examples of apartment blocks being taken over by Venezuelan.
Only a few apartment blocks taken over by Venezuelan gangs. And he said to her literally, do you hear yourself?
Yes,
Can you hear yourself?
Yes. So it's a similar situation. Brian Mast, on Face the Nation, he said, and this is, we know this from USAID, they supported drag shows in Ecuador, $50,000 for atheism in Nepal.
Atheism in Nepal?
Yes.
So that's a program?
That's right. And then $47,000 on a trans comic book for Peru. And her answer was, this is just a small amount, less than 1%, of the federal budget. And he's going...
For people around the country, by the way, who earn $47,000 annually, they wouldn't... this would be... I was thinking about this earlier. This would be funny if it wasn't so serious. This would be kind of funny, you know, whatever. But this is real money and real people. It's their real dollars that are being spent that are being spent in this way. So
rare families on 47,000 a year.
There's a ton of people in this country. That's what they earn annually.
So
horrible.
And
these are bad people. These are actually genuinely bad people, and they don't care. It's that thing, you know, what is that? Socialism? Socialism ends when you run out of spending other people's money.
And look, we fund NPR and PBS.
This is terrible. It's very upsetting.
You know, sometimes when we're in the car and we want to listen to some talk and we switch on NPR,
we don't last long before we say we have to turn that off.
Yes, there's about a 3-minute limit you can actually listen to, because it's just
relentless.
Because
what they typically do is that they'll introduce some topic, and then they'll say we'll have somebody on to speak to that, and the person who they have on, and maybe even multiple voices that they have on, all agree on the same side, and whatever side it is, it's always the leftist side. Yeah. It's the progressive side, as they call themselves, which, by the way, that needs to be made redundant, by the way. There's nothing progressive about them. They're regressive.
I mean, remember we had... So we made the Gosnell movie about the abortion doctor in Philadelphia. So we wanted to advertise. We wanted to give them money. I think it was $25,000 or $35,000. Yeah, so
basically they're basically dependent on taxpayer money to fund themselves, but then they also take advertising budgets. So we were there offering them money, because what they do is, you know, they'll say this program is brought to you by Knorr Soup, or, you know, this is brought to you by
or a movie
or whatever. Yeah. So we thought, you know what, we'll advertise, and also because part of our remit really with the Gosnell movie was to reach audiences who didn't really know this story because it hadn't gotten proper reporting. And guess what? They wouldn't take our money. They wouldn't take our advertisements unless we changed the words in the advertisement. And in the advertisement, we said this film is about an abortion doctor from Philadelphia. Yeah. And the problem they had was they wanted us to remove the words abortion doctor. And it was like, but you described...
They wanted to remove the word abortion. They didn't want to describe him as an abortion doctor. That's right, you're right. And there's about 30 examples on NPR of them describing Gosnell as an abortion doctor. They just didn't want people who would shine a negative spotlight on his activities and therefore perhaps on abortion as well.
A true spotlight on what he did.
A truth. So look, go Elon, go.
Go completely nuts. Get in there and, you know, and cut. Because this is. And by the way, NPR, you know, you're all very established. They've been around for a very long time. Obviously, people think you're marvellous. So, you know, pay your own bills. You know, pay your own bills.
You do fundraising drives all the time.
Yeah.
So fundraise.
Go ahead and do that. Yeah.
By the way, look, it shouldn't be that hard to. I mean, you've got a lot of very wealthy people who listen to NPR. Go and
go and talk to them.
So,
and also, by the way, the idea that half the country that are being insulted continuously on NPR have to pay for NPR. You know, that it is incredibly biased, and the same with PBS. It is it's unfair. By the way, it's unfair.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the DC plane crash.
Oh dear.
Yeah. No.
I know, but it's so sad. It is so sad, and see the photographs of the little young people, the skaters that were on the plane. I mean, it's just the whole thing is just horrible, and we were watching it kind of almost in real time.
Yes.
Really, really horrible.
Yeah. I just want to tell the people out there 3 things that
maybe they haven't heard from anywhere else.
Yes. So, who's to blame for the crash? Well, for starters, politicians from both sides. And we know this. Like, we love Reagan National Airport when we're in DC.
It's a really nice airport.
Yes.
Because the alternatives are an hour away, and the alternatives are big and nasty. There's Baltimore
or Dulles,
and neither of them are nice.
An hour in good traffic.
An hour in good traffic, exactly. Yeah. No, and basically Reagan is right in the center of Washington DC. It's incredibly close to the White House. In fact, as you fly into Reagan, you literally fly past all of the monuments. Yes. You can see all of the monuments. It is an unbelievable location.
But it is an incredibly dangerous airport because it's incredibly busy and it's incredibly built up around it. And it's got all that helicopter traffic. If you spend any time in DC, that's one thing. It's worse than Northern Ireland at its height, actually. I grew up with a lot of helicopters in the air. And it's just helicopters. And to be fair, in Northern Ireland, the helicopters were hovering, obviously spying. These are flying left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
And the these, to be fair, the senators and congressmen from around DC and Virginia and that, they have been trying to stop, some of them have been trying to close Reagan. Some of them have been
trying to limit the number of flights.
But of course, if you're a congressman or senator or staffer, you want to get back to your constituency at the weekend or on a Thursday or
from
whatever.
the nicest airport you could find.
And the closest airport you can find. So they have actually been voting to expand the flights going in. Now, also, the helicopter issue. Is there any need for those helicopters? And, you saw that this helicopter was involved in a continuity of government exercise. It was a training exercise that if something weird happened, that the president would be able to get out in time and go somewhere for the alternative government to be set up. However, there's a headline from the Wall Street Journal. Army helicopter in deadly crash served as taxi service to Washington VIPs.
Oh, so some of these helicopters aren't involved in such continuity of government
They
activities.
are,
Sometimes they're involved in just ferrying VIPs from here to there to everywhere.
Because the traffic would be too tough. I mean, this is what...
the Black Hawk belonged to an aviation brigade responsible for ferrying VIPs and ensuring continuity of government, obviously. And, yes.
So, and helicopters known as gold tops because they're specially painted to highlight their mission. Gold tops have become, in effect, this is from the Wall Street Journal, a high-end taxi service for Washington VIPs, taking passengers to bases and other locations in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Maryland, and in some cases beyond.
So not exactly essential transport.
And that rang a bell with me.
Oh, Phelim, go on ahead now.
I was thinking, that's interesting.
Ding, ding, ding.
Where did I hear about that before?
Now, where?
You may not know this, our new listeners, our new viewers. Yes. We did a play called FBI Lovebirds Undercovers.
We did.
Which is a verbatim play of the text messages and emails of FBI agents, rogue FBI agents, senior rogue FBI agents, Peter Strzok
and Lisa Page.
Who conducted a steamy affair whilst planning and plotting to overthrow Trump's presidency and candidacy and then presidency. So it was literally like, let's me debrief you in the office.
Let's just watch a very quick
trailer
from that.
Did you get laid yesterday? I didn't. I'm concerned that someone forgot to validate my time or something. Oh, that's funny. Paid, not laid.
There's no way he gets elected, Dash. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy. God, Hillary should win 100 million to 0. Just went to a Southern Virginia Walmart. I could smell the Trump support.
Vomit. Vomit. Vomit, vomit, vomit.
You can come hang out in 4012 with me. I have remnants of Cubota chips and salsa.
It's going to be a Clinton-Trump race. Unbelievable.
What? Exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, question mark, question mark, question mark.
Please don't ever text me again.
Okay, Phelim, continue with your story.
Yes.
So now you're reading all about these gold top VIP, these helicopters being used basically to ferry VIPs from here to there to everywhere, and it made you remember FBI Lovebirds.
So here's
Undercovers the play.
Here are the text messages of Peter. Do you want to? Actually, I've just put it up there. Do you want to read? Do you want to be Lisa?
I can be Lisa.
Yes. So this is Peter's text message, and he's going. We should get our phones to do that. You going to DOJ?
Yup. In ODAG's car now.
Wow, double fancy, smiley face, winky face. Turn on ABC.
NBC.
Turn on NBC.
What was it?
Christopher, sleazy Romanian.
They all are.
By the way, this one thing I've noticed is that there's nothing like liberals to get racist the moment like they think nobody's watching. No wonder he's as brusque as he is. These Romanians, they aren't even gypsies.
Seriously, I kind of hate them. But they have the crookedness of the Russians with the entitledness of the Italians. Yuck. Totally off topic, but I'm kind of bummed. Randy offered to take Andy to the offsite using a Black Hawk on Monday. I've never been in a Black Hawk or any helicopter at all.
Well, I really hope you can go. There's got to be enough room. And so offsite, they were using it as a taxi service. She was excited that she was going to get in the Black Hawk, but she didn't get in the Black Hawk because there wasn't enough room, so she had to take a car instead.
Oh my God!
And if you look at the Wall Street Journal article, sometimes people can be held up in traffic for 45 minutes.
Oh,
and
horror!
That justifies basically putting people's lives in jeopardy in DC. So that is one responsibility. I will say DEI is also probably to blame, and I'm not saying that the pilots or anyone involved was hired through DEI, but when you send out a message that
the priority is diversity and the priority is not safety,
then
there's something very wrong with how you're planning.
67 people will die, eventually.
Yeah.
And by the way, unions are to blame. When you have a unionized workforce that's impossible to fire, you make it impossible to get rid of a dangerously incompetent people. And that's what's happening at the Federal Aviation Administration. Just look at this. New York.
And that headline, by the way, sorry, when you were just talking about, the fact that they had prioritized diversity over anything else. Like the one headline, and when I look back at that headline, I thought, you know what, this has to be the Babylon Bee. There's no way that this is real. But, this is a headline. We're just putting it up on the screen right now. FAA's diversity push includes a focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. Severe, by the way, like they
yes.
Never mind like intellectual or disabilities or psychiatric disabilities, but no, they were actually prioritizing people with severe psychiatric disabilities. I mean, it's insanity. This is insanity. This is exactly the definition.
By the way,
of insanity.
they're saying, well, they weren't going to be air traffic controllers, but that
you don't want them in the building. By the way, sorry, you don't want anyone in the building.
But also, if you say that is our priority, what do you think it does for the morale of people, of air traffic controllers?
Yeah, no, this is
and when you say you prioritize, it's the same thing. If you're prioritizing diversity over merit, you're going to get safety issues, and then the unions. So. I mean, this is a headline. I think it's from December the 2nd, 2023. Drunk and asleep on the job, air traffic controllers pushed to the brink. Now, the New York Times makes it a sympathetic piece.
Yes.
Basically, these people are stoned, drunk, and asleep on the job, but none of them are fired.
Yeah.
Because of the stress they're under. So it's almost impossible to get fired as an air traffic controller. So the unions are strong, the management is weak, and when you've got that, you're just going to have... The good workers are going to leave, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what happens in these unionised places. The good workers are going to leave. And so, Anne.
Yes, Phelim.
Baldoni Gate. What are we calling this? Lively Gate? Gatelate? Ryan Reynolds Gate? Deadpool Gate?
A lot of people. There are people of ours who watch our programme religiously and who don't know who Blake Lively is and don't know who... maybe don't even know who Ryan Reynolds is, by the way.
So... the hottest story, we bring you the hottest stories and that you need to know. So let's start at the beginning. Justin Baldoni, who is someone I have never heard of.
Never heard of him.
Anyway, he, actor, director, producer, he read a book called It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, I think it is.
Correct.
And apparently a massive
huge
selling novel.
20 million people bought it.
Actually bought the rights of her, which is a very unusual thing to do for an actor to do. So
he's a big feminist, is he, Phelim?
Yeah, well, yes. Oh, I think he would describe. It's a book about domestic violence. I think he would describe himself, or rather, did describe himself as a male feminist. Perhaps when you see, he may not any longer. So he bought the rights to the book. He approached Blake Lively, who is a fairly nondescript actor of sorts, except she has won one important attribute, and it's not her looks, it's not her acting skill.
No, she's married to Ryan Reynolds, who's possibly the most popular actor on the planet Earth, or he was.
So Ryan Reynolds, who played Deadpool, and I mean, just one of the most powerful people in Hollywood, actually. For example, I remember a senior person, was it in Netflix? Yes. So we happened to have lunch with somebody from Netflix, and they were saying that every movie that comes into the studios now, this is back about 5 years ago, they said, can you take it away and Deadpool it? Every script that came in, can you take it away and Deadpool it? That kind of deadpan, looking at the camera, talking to the camera,
breaking the fourth wall, whatever.
The fourth wall. That all was popularized by Ryan Reynolds. So they made a film, and it was launched, and it did incredibly well. $351 million, and there was rumors, of course, there were rumors that
there were tensions on the set, Phil.
And it was an unusual set because Baldoni was a producer, a director, a star of the film, and a writer.
Yeah.
And Blake, that meant normally these roles are done by 4 different people. The producer's a very powerful person, the director's a very powerful person, and Blake Lively, who would be the star of the movie normally, would have almost a co-equal position, but when the one person has all 4 of those roles, it's an unusual power balance. Anyway, there was rumours of tension on the set. Press tour was very odd. It was about a very serious topic called domestic abuse, and of course we're all into advocacy films.
But then really odd, because on the press tour, instead of like being all very serious and talking about how awful domestic violence is, they were supporting Blake Lively's hair care products and Ryan Reynolds, her husband's gin company.
Yes,
and all of the kind of the colours around the press tour were like pinks, and it basically looked like the Barbie sequel.
But interestingly, Baldoni and Lively didn't do any interviews together, the 2 stars. As the rumours circulated and swarmed and swirled, people were told not to ask Blake Lively why Baldoni wasn't there. They stopped following each other on Instagram, I remember that. So there was a few press stories, etc. And now, to be honest, Blake Lively, my memory was Blake Lively did not come out well from the press stories. She definitely, there was definitely, the talk was she was difficult to work with, and I suppose she was because she's Ryan Reynolds' wife.
Yes, she's
and
queen
she
of
always,
the world.
She gets her way.
Yes.
So anyway, he didn't want to give her away, obviously. So then it died down until 4 months after the launch. When it died down, and actually, I think everyone had kind of moved on, she launched this mega lawsuit against him. Basically, it was a nightmare, Me Too, on unbelievable
sexual harassment is what she was accusing him of.
I would call it sexual assault, almost, that he kind of groped her during scenes, and it was kind of
Me Too then.
Total Me Too. Believe
all
women.
By the way, kind of interesting, by the way, when you think that the subject of the film was about sexual harassment and sexual assault, and then here we are, the actual film itself turned into a sexual assault, apparently.
Allegedly.
And very important to say allegedly.
And very interesting, the New York Times did a massive the day after her extensive lawsuit dropped, the New York Times did a massive 4,000-word piece on it with 4 different authors.
Wow. God, they worked really fast, Phil.
Yes,
then.
And not only written, but fancy smancy graphics too. And in fact, state-of-the-art graphics that they hadn't used before, where there was kind of text messages appearing as you opened the screen.
They got that out in one day, Phil.
Listen, this is the New York Times.
They're amazing.
They're amazing. As you may gather, this is a significant factor as we go ahead.
Factoid.
So I think that Lively and Reynolds thought that would crush Baldoni. And to be fair, it would shatter a lot of people. The most powerful man in Hollywood is accusing you of dissing his wife in the most egregious way. Talk about you'll never eat lunch in this town again. He would never, he would never get a Coca-Cola in this town again. However, Baldoni didn't read that script. He didn't really go along. He didn't crawl away. His life destroyed and his career destroyed by the Me Too, believe all woman nonsense. So he, in response, launched a $250 million libel lawsuit against the New York Times over its reporting. The lawsuit said the paper cherry-picked and altered the quotes.
Oh,
and
God, imagine
stripped-
saying that. Imagine
stripped
saying
it
that about the New York Times.
and
Cherry picking.
cherry picking, and also stripping messages out of context. Very interesting legal take on it too. The reason, so this is something you should know. You can go to court if you go to in most jurisdictions, in most British-based jurisdictions, which America pretty much is. You can go and say anything you can. If you're in a court, you can literally accuse someone of doing the most heinous things possible. But if it's in court, you are covered. It's like Parliament. You've got privilege. It's called because the world recognizes that it's important people tell the truth in court and not be worried about defamation or losing their house, and that people say the right things in Parliament.
So you can say whatever you like.
You can say whatever you like. And the New York Times, of course, say this was in a lawsuit that was filed in a court, so we're merely reporting. However, Baldoni's pointing out you didn't write a 4,000-word article with the fancy smancy graphics in
After.
it was filed. You wrote this before it was filed. You printed it afterwards. Now, I don't think that's normally printing it. It's when it's printed, not when it's written. But it's a very novel take.
It'll be a very interesting legal point.
Then he launched a $400 million lawsuit against Blake Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds. He's suing them for extortion, damages, privacy, invasion of privacy, and, accusing them of
He's right, though.
grossly edited, unsubstantiated, and doctored information to the media. And I think the one thing that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively didn't understand that, Baloney was, yes, as I say, he's not just the star of the film. He's the director, and he's not just the director. He's the producer.
So he has all the tapes, Phelim. Is that what you're saying? He has all the outtakes. So everything on set is recorded because we've made a couple of movies. We know this now, that everyone is mic'd up all the time. So, even when they're taking a break and having a cup of coffee, they normally don't turn everything off. So there's an extraordinary amount of audio out there,
and
Phelim.
raw footage.
And perhaps there might be a story to tell about what was actually going on on the set.
And he has also all the text messages, all the emails that were sent.
And he's already started to release some of this stuff.
He just recently set up a website there at the weekend with all this. For example, she accused him of terrible behaviour during a romantic scene.
During one of the scenes.
Yes, inappropriate conversation, touching, etc., 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 just terrible, etc., etc., etc. Awful stuff. However, Baldoni released the raw footage.
And we've watched it.
And they're trying to say, that's proven. I'm going, everyone looking at that says, no, that's not inappropriate. That's just normal. So he's published this website. It shows all the text messages are the ones that are important. Like another example.
He's published 168 pages of kind of corroborating material that corroborates his story, that nothing untoward actually happened.
And she says, he fat-shamed me. He
fat-shamed her.
And of course, when you read the text messages, it's her that's obsessed with her weight.
Yes.
As actresses possibly, are. And she alleged he got her a fitness coach or a doctor or something, but it was actually a weight loss coach disguised as a trainer. However, the text messages show that she actually gave him her trainer.
Mm-hmm.
So, it does look like they are cherry picking. Now they have to respond. Now they have to fight back. But at the moment, this has not been a slam dunk that Ryan. I think the law. I think they should have let it die on the vine.
Yes,
she should have come out with a new.
But Ryan Reynolds probably thought that the believe all women narrative would win the day, and that that any kind of criticism of their criticism would have been squashed just by the fact that you have to believe all women.
Are you blaming Trump again? The new world Trump has created here, Anne? Are you saying that Trumpism is responsible?
What a brave new world!
What a brave new world where we don't have to believe all nonsense. Oh yeah. And where we don't have to deny the facts of our very eyes. Yes. In a world where you can say a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl, you might actually say, I've seen the videos, I've seen the raw takes, I've seen the text messages, and they're not what you say they are, even though you are Ryan Reynolds.
It's not over. Even though there's a court date, by the way, and the court date is March 2026, which I imagine, one would hope that this would get settled before that. But if it does go to court, it'll be quite interesting, Phelim.
Oh no, it'll be very interesting. I think Reynolds and Lively cannot let this go to court.
No.
Because Reynolds is no longer the golden boy. He's not your golden boy anymore. Anne,
No,
is
and
he?
I was very fond of Ryan Reynolds, but I'm not so fond of him now, actually. And I'm particularly not fond of his wife. And I did see the film, by the way. I actually saw the film at the time and thought, why am I going? Somebody else invited me to go with a bunch of women to see the movie. And I thought, why would I go on a summer's day to see a movie about domestic violence? And it's not my idea of entertainment. As my father famously used to say, why don't they make nice films anymore?
Films.
Why don't they make nice films anymore?
Yes.
He's right too. I'm
right.
all about that myself.
Okay,
now.
talking of nice films, this one's going to end now.
Yes. Enough already.
See what I did there?
Yeah, very good. Boom, boom, Phelim. Thanks for that. So that's us for this week. And we will be back next week with all kinds of new stories. So take care and thank you.
Bye.
Hey!